Hey, Oakwood small groups. Hey, as you gather together tonight, we're in the book of Acts. And the section that I chose for you tonight is in Acts chapter 22. It is 6 through 21. Paul is giving his story, his testimony to a group of Jewish people. What I wanted to make note of, though, is we see this story take place in Acts 9, 1 through 19. And it's in that story that week we talked about Cornelius, because I knew we would get back to this story. Paul's testimony is important, but we see it in 9. We're looking at it again right now in 22. You're also going to see it again in 26, because he gives his story or his testimony to Agrippa. And the two times he shares it with two different types of people. And he shares the purpose with Agrippa about his vision and his obedience to God in following that vision. With the Jewish people, he talks about who he is and how he grew up and what takes place, and now how he's reaching out to the Gentiles. But he still shares that main part of the story, his testimony, about how he came to Christ and how Jesus came to him. But as you look at it, I just want you to think about the importance of our story and our testimony. And there's parts of it, right? There's parts of our story that start with I grew up in a home like this, and then I grew up like this, and this happened in my life at this stage in my life, and then I grew here, or I felt like I fell back. But we have a story, right? Everyone does. And it's just really important that we don't miss sharing the story. Now, I want you to hold to this. It's important that we share our testimony about where and how we encountered Christ, not only initially, but continually. And then also just our life story, the people we grew up with, and where we were raised, and who was important in our life, and what's important to our life right now. It's important as we gather as a group that we're always talking and sharing that story, because it helps us know that everyone we encounter has a story. And a lot of times we see that we get to hear someone's story, and we might find that we relate to someone more than we would have thought that we related until we hear their story, right? And I think it's so important that we continually share our story, that people know our story, so much so that someone could share our story because they know it. And that we just remember that in Revelation chapter 12 and 11, it talks about that they overcame the accuser, the devil, the dragon, Satan. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. Our testimony is important. Take time to share it tonight, and continually to be reminded of why that story of Christ in our life is so important as we encounter other people and their story of Christ. And that we share it with people that don't yet have that story where they've encountered Christ, but maybe soon will be a part of it. So share that tonight, and we will talk next week. Thank you, Oakwood.